What is the truth in the stories we are told? We've been given a story of a world fueled by separation. We've become separate from one another, separate from the earth, ultimately separate from the true nature of ourselves. It's time we learn the truth. It's time you rewrite your story. It's time to realign with who it is that you really are. This is the fifth dimension.
You are infinite and eternal. We are infinite and eternal.
Our natural essence, we could say, is simply being.
We have this awakening coming together as a perfect storm.
We're ready for this. We have the capacity inside. We just got to find that.
Everybody, welcome into the Fifth Dimension podcast. We got a very familiar guest today. I'm joined by the one and only Kevin Ross. Kevin, what's going on, man? It's great to have you back.
It's good, man. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, dude. How have you been flowing with the it feels like the external noise of the world is getting a little bit louder. I mean, how are you flowing with things? What's been your focus of late?
I don't know. I think I've kind of always, not always, but definitely over the last 20 years or so had a good mindset and perspective on just embracing chaos and dealing with pain and difficulties and that kind of thing. I mean, that was a big thing when I turned my life around and started fighting, was learning to embrace that stuff, not necessarily enjoy it or anything like that, but have a better perspective and understand a little bit more. It's always the here's this situation that you might not have been able to change. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do about it? Can you do something about it? Can you not? Simplifying things and putting them in that context has really helped me a lot, as particularly when it comes to like mental health and stress. And I mean, so many things we worry about and stress about and just stay up late about, like most of the time it's stuff we can't even do anything about anyway, and if anything, we're probably making it worse just by overthinking it, overanalyzing it. Like, you're either going to do something better or you're not, and you can or you can't. And obviously that's easy to say, but it starts with a little bit, and you progress and build, and the more you do it, the stronger you get, the more you understand it, the easier it becomes to not let it overwhelm you as much, mentally, physically, spiritually, all those things. And that kind of applies across the board to really just about everything.
I feel you on that, man. I've definitely been on a looking back, I even recognize maybe where I was 2 years ago, and looking at sort of the chaos of the world and a lot of the charades just getting going, where I was, even then I felt like maybe I was more of a reactionary state, not fully. I mean, I was still practicing, had my spiritual practices and really working on patience and, controlling what I can. But looking back then to now, despite all the chaos, I feel great. Like, life is pretty good. Like, I'm not overly stressed about the events of the world, man. But it's fascinating to me because, I feel like this push for freedom is growing much larger, right? Compared to maybe where it was even since the last time we chatted. But,
without question. I mean, it's unfortunate like that didn't happen 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it is happening, and it is something. And it's always, you got to appreciate the little victories, and whether that inevitably becomes something good or bad, you never really know. So
right,
just enjoy the process, and go kind of learn to flow with it.
I was gonna say, well, and it's interesting because I look at the freedom movement, but I also still see at the same time, and I don't know if this is me like looking for something to be not upset about, but like with a critical lens, right? I still see
Yeah.
almost that reactionary mindset on certain issues that are coming up. On
Yeah.
I don't know that you know, we have the new Roe v. Wade announcement. We have other distractions that are dropping. You know, Elon buying
Yeah.
Twitter, all these things, and they're all divide and conquer, right? I mean, you even have
Yeah.
freedom of speech versus censorship. You have left versus
Yeah.
right. All these polarities, they don't
Yeah.
seem to be going away even in the freedom movement, and I think that's like the root of a lot of our issues. So I don't know how much we're going to solve as long as we keep buying into that.
I would say that's been the root of every issue since the dawn of mankind is
True.
though that polarity you talk about. So we tend to get blinded by positive things,
Yeah.
not understanding that everything comes with a spectrum, and the extreme side of anything is negative. You know, the extreme side of I don't know, life, like if you never die, that's not life at all.
Yep.
You know, the extreme side of health and not being able to enjoy life is about balance, or it should be about balance, and that has both sides of the spectrum. But we get into these polarizing arguments, and you're not even allowed to have a conversation about that middle ground where the majority of people really are.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happens when you do have communication and open debates, and that's the reason why that kind of stuff is censored and banned, is because you're not allowed to be in the middle. You have to be on one side or the other. And obviously you're going to be more gravitated towards a variety of elements of that, the way you grew up, who you came around, your family dynamic, all those kinds of things. And all you ever see is what that extreme side is, like, oh, they just want to murder everybody, or the other side of it is like, there shouldn't be no rules for anything ever.
Yeah.
And that's all there is. And like, I've never met anyone on either side of the spectrum, even though they're over there. They're really like, they're probably right in the middle.
Yeah.
Most people are there when you actually have a conversation with somebody. But if it's like, if I have to pick one or the other, then yeah, I'm going to pick this or I'm going to pick that.
Right. Exactly. And that's, I guess, the old saying of the lesser of two evils, right? But then the lesser of two evils is still
They're
evil.
both evil.
Right. It doesn't.
They're both evil. Yeah, as we kind of said earlier, that becomes every single issue known to man. It's like, no matter how positive or negative it is, when you put things into a certain light, anything can be bad.
Yeah.
Everything is circumstantial and situational, and a multitude of other facets that go into that. And if you're not allowed to talk about, why do I feel this way? Why do I want to have this and not this? Then you just have to go off of what it looks like, what somebody else says that it is, what the media does, and that's the whole control thing there. And even with very positive things, as you said, like, yeah, it's great that people are talking about this stuff and these movements are going on, but any side of anything becomes negative at some point. Like, I don't want to be on anybody's side. I don't want to be on any political side. I don't want to be on any lifestyle side, like health and balance and conversation and debates, even with people you don't agree with. That's what I want. I want to be able to have conversations. I want to be able to explore different aspects of life, as if there's just one way to do things, and one way to do things for the entire of your lifetime. We're complex individuals. Things change. How you feel today might be very different tomorrow because of something that happens in your life or your family, or just your perspective might shift. And we forget about who we used to be, or our mindset. We think we're always the same person. We always think the same things. And that might be true, but there's still a spectrum there. And you might have shifted all the way over here, but you still think you're on that same realm, but the other side was way over here.
Right.
And that makes things really complex too.
Exactly. Well, and I think the root of a lot of our issues, like you kind of mentioned, it's almost like that identification with oneself with a particular issue or with a particular side. The second you
Yeah.
say, I am this, you're confining yourself within a box of conformity to that specific ideology or political mindset, whatever it may be, right? And it's like, how do we drop the need to actually, I guess, identify with that? Because it's interesting, because it's almost, I think we need tribes as human beings. It's in our nature, dating back to our earliest days, and those factions, if you will, serve like that psychological need to be in a tribe. Because otherwise, if we're not identifying with that, where else do we generally find tribes? We almost have to craft our own. That needs to be, and I believe that's happening. Like I'm certain that's happening, because that's what I'm attempting to do and feel like I'm becoming a part of, right? But at the same time, it's almost that you mentioned like the constant change. I think there's going to be change whether we're conscious of it or not, right? Even if it's happening unconsciously, even if we're confining ourselves within a box, we're going to lose, like you just mentioned, we're going to lose sight of who we even are, because we're living by an ideology as the world is changing around us and we're changing and not even paying attention to that change. So it's fascinating to me, the direction that we're moving, because I mean, I don't know exactly what the future holds, right? I'm not a fortune teller. I have ideas on what they have planned and certain agendas, but I also don't think there's going to be like one day where you snap your fingers and the whole thing comes crashing down, right? Almost like sort of doomsday Armageddon style, which seems to be a one mindset people have. I think it's going to be the slow and gradual changes that continue to permeate and invade on people's lives, whether it be in technocracy realm and transhumanism or medical apartheid, I suppose, right? And it's slowly but surely an implementation of a larger vision. So I think that's why it's really important to come back to that moral foundation inward and be with all of those changes as they are occurring, instead of, because if you're not paying attention to those small things, one day you wake up and it's like, whoa, what happened to me? What happened to the world? It's completely different, right? But it was that slow implementation, which I think is how people get on board with all this stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say it's the same thing in both directions. It's a slow, progressive or regressive thing, and that's why it is very important to have your center, have your foundation of who you are and the things you believe, of course, but you also need to be flexible and, be able to grow and to learn and not be so stuck in your ideologies all the time, because, at the very least, be open to hearing and seeing other things. When we become so closed down to stuff, that's where things become dogmatic, and you've lost, like, do you even know what you believe anymore? You're so stuck on this thing, and do you even know what that is? And is that thing the same thing you thought it was 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago? Or is it what you were told that it is now, and you just got into that group because you assumed that we all believe the same thing?
Absolutely, man. And that's it's interesting, because I've been doing a lot of looking into like the origin stories of like mankind, right? And I mean, that kind of plays into like religion, like in a deeper sense.
I mean, I do a lot of that too. The root of really everything, when religion, education, countries and people's belief systems, and where they came from, how they changed over time, how they all incorporated different elements from other belief systems and religions. And it's it's when you really talk about it, like, do you even really know what it is that you believe, or you believe in the idea of what you think that it is, as opposed to what's at its core, or not what its core, but what people have made it, how it has changed, even just in our lifetime, how many things have changed. Like, just look at the political spectrum It's like, and again, why I don't ever want to align myself with this team necessarily, because that team used to be very different not so long ago. Just jumping on board with this team aspect of it, like that team's ideology changes, but you're so stuck on like, I have to be part of this team because though they believe what I believe, and like what they believe changes over time. And you kind of want to make sure you're paying attention to what that is and what it is that you actually believe, or else you're just being led around by this team captain.
And then you begin to worship that team captain and you worship the ideologies, right? And it's interesting because I don't think real activism can be truly sent. I mean, it's nuanced, right? I don't think it can be generated from a centralized force, right? It needs to be something that is grassroots, authentic from the heart and in alignment with a sort of higher ideal. And then how that develops into, I'd say, a centralized structure. Again, there needs to be on everything, there needs to be a certain level of control in order to have a level of freedom in a sense, right? Like total I guess with no centralizing structure over, let's say, if we were to come up with an activist cause and like it's heart-centered and we want to get the world involved with this vision, right? We need to have some sort of centralized structure. Otherwise, it's not gonna make a difference. I suppose people can't align themselves with it. But at the same time, it's difficult to start something from that centralized place and expect it to make that same sort of impact because it's not generated from the heart, right? If people want to make a difference, they need to find a cause that actually lives within them, and they need to actually just observe the world. Like, what is going on? Oh, they created a ministry of truth in the government. How do I feel about that? I'm not going to look at CNN and listen to the press secretary. I'm not even going to go listen to quote unquote freedom Twitter. I'm going to go make my own judgment, right? Instead of just sort of, I guess, outsourcing our thoughts, our ideas about the world just on what other people are saying. And social media makes it so easy to do that. I mean, I think I remember seeing that there's people who read like thousands of tweets a day. Like, I mean, you go on Twitter on your phone for even 5 minutes. How many tweets do you scroll through? It might be 100. You don't even necessarily like consciously realize how much information you're consuming. And that comes into your thoughts, and it's really a programmed way of looking at the world, right? So I think it's really important with everything going on to take almost a step back in a lot of ways and just be present, observe. I mean, I've had to spend so much extra time lately in like meditation or sitting in nature and just being still, because it's that stillness that balances out that external noise, that chaos, the big dragon over here, right? I can actually square up and face it if I'm from a place that's calm, cool, collected.
That's why it's so important to always take a complete step back from really anything that you're doing, because we get lost in the noise of everything, whether it's positive or a negative thing, and we don't have we lose perspective on what it is we're doing, where we're going, why we're doing it. Are we even still going in the right direction, or are we just in this cloud of chaos and we think it's where we're supposed to be because we're just habitually doing the same things over and over again? But if we don't take that step back even for a moment, it doesn't need to be for a certain period of time, but just making sure that we're doing it. Are we still going in the right direction? Is this where we want to go? Could we be doing this better? Maybe we're going the right direction, but maybe we're dragging all this extra shit with us that we don't need. cut it out of there. I think that's something in all aspects of life that's important to do on some kind of regular basis, whatever that basis may be, or else just get caught up in repetition very easily.
I mean, it's easy to settle into routine, what's comfortable, right? And again, it's like you need a certain level of routine to actually bring about success and keep the motivation going, right? But it's like, all right, let me not get lost. Let me listen. If something's not working, I'm going to intuitively know that, but am I so comfortable in this routine or in this misery, whatever it may be, that I'm not going to consciously make the change? Because that, in a way, that almost is a level of, you have to sort of admit that you are not this all-knowing like being, like everything that I am doing is perfect, right?
Yeah, well, you look at almost, I mean, a great deal of the horrific things that have happened throughout humanity started from maybe not necessarily a positive thing, but people that thought they were doing the right thing or the right thing for them, but then became so fixated on it. They got, I mean, human beings are just that way naturally, you know. Eventually, power comes into play, money comes into play, obsession comes into play, and all of things like that. And that again, that's why I like to look at the origin stories of all this stuff. Like, yeah, what this look what the Nazis did. Like, yeah, it was the worst shit ever. Why did they fucking do that? How did they even get there? All that stuff gets left out a lot of the story, and that's, I think, a big reason why we keep going through these cycles over and over and over again, because we just look at the end result. We're like, yeah, we need to stop this. I'm like, yeah, that's how that started in the first fucking place. They wanted to stop that shit, and then they started doing that shit, and then they got lost, and now we're like, now we got to do it to everybody. Now we got to kill everybody.
Yeah.
And then it happens again, and then it just keeps flip-flopping back and forth. One person gets oppressed and enslaved, and then they build back up, and then they become the enslaver themselves, and then it goes over here and it goes over here, and all while we're all just like constantly fighting against these two sides of the equation. My side's right, my side's right. Well, my side's right because this is what happened to me. Now I'm gonna only think about that not happening again, but now you're doing it to the other person. It's like we're fighting terrorism, but we're creating terrorists.
Yeah,
like we're creating the problem. Like, you don't think, like, yeah, it'd be great if you could only stomp out the people who created this problem, but that's not the case. And even if so, there's people that are born into these things that don't know any different necessarily. Like, you think everybody in this country has a choice, like, or everybody wants what their government is doing? Like, imagine if, like, we tend to not view our country that way. We look at other countries, the bad things they're doing, like, oh, that's bad, that country's bad. But, well, how do you think people view us?
yeah.
You think we're just like the saviors of the world? Like, that's not really reality. You come up in a certain way, and you're shown things in a certain context that you might start to believe that if you're not willing to look outside of that. And then it justifies a lot of these things that are going on. Be like, yeah, of course we should do that. Of course we should send money to these people. Of course we should support the military and whatever, however long you want to go with that. But if you don't understand the full context of the conversation or the situation, where it came from, what it leads to, how this cycle continually repeats itself, it's like you're cheering for something that isn't so great, and you are the things that you're trying to fight against.
Exactly. It's that active co-creation of repeating cycles. I swear we must be like practicing telekinesis or something, because I was literally thinking about the Nazis as you brought them up, because they're a perfect example of, they were in a way, Germany was very victimized after World War I, and like having like economy in the absolute tanks, and the Nazis promised this strong national identity and to take care of all the people, and they this and that and right, and they really connected with almost the part of people that recognized, like, the arts were a huge thing in Nazi Germany, and they connected with almost that sacred nature of people, but people got blinded by the ideology. And as the totalitarian tiptoe goes, whoa, the Holocaust happened. I can't believe it. Whoa, I like didn't see that coming. When in reality, if you're sitting in conscious awareness, not attached to that, ideology, it was fairly clear the direction it was moving in. And I look
Yeah.
at the same thing today, right? A lot of these ideas, a lot of the rhetoric. I mean, it's pretty clear if you look at what was said about the unvaccinated, for example, right? Or
Yeah.
even what's said now about Russians, just Russian
Mm.
people, not even not even like the country of Russia itself. Like there's uh, it's mind-boggling to me almost. Well, I guess it's not mind-boggling because I understand where it
I
comes
understand
from.
it completely.
Yeah, I understand the level of conditioning that's
Yeah.
taking place. I see it, um, but I guess what's mind-boggling is I wonder how many times we have to go through the same lesson in order
Forever.
to actually integrate
Forever. Hey,
it.
you know, again, these things, none of these things are new.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, I would say, are, you know, especially ones that are starting to understand a lot of what's been going on. I'm sure it appears to them as if this is just now,
Yeah.
as if this cycle is gone over and over and over and over through the history of mankind from the beginning to now. Like that has never changed because human nature has never changed, and the aspects of human nature and tribalism and everything else that it comes with, all, you know, we've grown in our abilities and our technology, but it's the same foundational behaviors that will happen, and now it's just on a grander scale. And now it might be a little more obvious to a lot of people, especially once you start looking at things. But you know,
Yeah.
that kind of you know, that's why that keeps repeating, because we don't learn our lessons, because we're always like, oh, we're never going to let that happen again. Yeah, you're never going to let the end result happen again, but you're not stopping you're not changing what started it.
Right.
You know, we're always looking for, we think these negative things are going to be so obvious when they come, not like they're going to come knocking on our door. I'm like, those negative things, those sneak around the back. You don't even notice them. You probably invite them in because they sound like a positive thing. And then by the time it gets to something negative, you're like, well, how did we get here? Or you're rationalizing that you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna
You
say,
know,
when
it's
negativity
it's
knocks on the door.
I'm like, and you know, you can very easily use the last 2 years as an example. I'm like, how many people said anything 2 years ago that are saying things now? I'm like, well, why didn't you say anything then? You know, did you not notice, or you did notice, but you rationalized why? And again, who's to say when you should or shouldn't? You know, there's I'm not going to tell people what they should do, but you know, every hey, I'm having a conversation with her. Every bad thing is rationalized. You know, we think that there's just these evil people doing evil things, but how many of those people view themselves as evil?
Right.
You know, how many of those people are just following orders, or not wanting to lose their job, or I have a family and I need to support this, that, and the other? And that's true, you know, but it's so easy to view those people as like they're the enemy. And meanwhile, we all do it at some level or another.
Right. Absolutely. And I can recognize in myself where it's easy for me to paint a label on, let's say, like, I don't know, the CIA or, you know, the Biden administration as a whole, and think that they are all, and I think this is where sometimes when we're talking about quote unquote conspiracy theories, right, it's easy to lump all of those people into a category. But in the
Yeah.
same process of doing that, we are actively dehumanizing
Yeah.
a lot of those people. The reality is that there are a very select few people who have power in the, I would say, not just in this country, but in the world, right? And there's a lot of frontmen. There's a lot of people, let's say, who work in the CIA who don't know 99% of the things that happens at a
Yeah.
much darker, more nefarious level, right? They're doing their
Certainly.
job. They think they're working for the best interests of national security, whatever, right? So there's a lot of people who are um, working maybe for the quote unquote dark, or working
Yeah.
towards an agenda that I might see. And I I see it as a same cycle of a previous, like something like the Nazis, right? That same cycle coming back, right? People might
Yeah.
be creating that, but that doesn't mean they're bad people, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they are like, if I'm going to dehumanize them and try and stop the cycle, I'm just going to, I'm literally setting up the same exact circumstances for somebody to view me as this oppressor because
Yeah.
little Johnny's father worked for the CIA, and here I am trashing the CIA, and I'm calling his dad a horrible,
Yeah.
horrible threat to all of our lives. Whatever, that same cycle. And then little Johnny holds a resentment against me. One day he comes and knocks me off my pedestal. The same cycle happens again, right? So
Yeah.
it there's so much, it's so easy to dehumanize in these times, especially when looking at these larger issues, because
Yeah.
we think that, I guess, politicians aren't people, and I understand that line of thinking. I get it. Or we think that the government in its totality is evil. And I mean, you can look at the root of government, and
Yeah.
it does say govern, to rule over, and meant can be translated to mind. So I mean, maybe it was created with nefarious intentions. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean like the government isn't a life force itself. Like there are just people like you and I with the
Yeah.
same conditioning. We'd be in there doing the same exact things if we weren't consciously aware, or we were buying
Yeah.
into certain ideologies. So it's very easy to dehumanize, and that's something I've been trying to just be and accept, right? Like, okay, this is what these people are doing. I'm not going to nefariously judge them or hate them. I'll hold people accountable where they need to be held accountable, but
Mhm.
I don't want to create the same conditions that have plagued us in the past, because I almost wonder if, because this has been going on for thousands of years. I really wonder if this is a conditioned behavior that is, because I can't believe that that's human nature. Right. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
it feels to me that this is a conditioned behavior that is so ingrained for thousands and thousands and thousands of years that we are very prone in our nature now to just accept that kind of behavior, to just go along with things, to sort of be under the rule of conformity. Right. Because there's a lot of tribes that don't live this way, like the Sand Bushmen, for example. I mean, they were
Mhm.
very grounded in stories of deeper meaning, right? They weren't pillaging the earth. They recognized where you fracture sort of the harmoniousness and oneness of the world. And if you need to go on the
Mhm.
hunt, or there's things going on, right, for their own survival, but they didn't let that
Yeah.
run their lives. So they're getting excited. They agree. I'll take it as
Yeah. Fight. Kill everybody.
I'll take it as a confirmation. But yeah, so I have to believe that it's not human nature in the way that, even if it's been thousands of years, like
Yeah.
it gives me hope that there is a way to reconnect with a deeper part of who we actually are. Because I don't think we've been living with who it is we're meant to be.
Well, yeah, I would say that without question. We've lost track of our ground. We're not grounded anymore, and we're up here floating around and so fixated on progression, as if progress means positivity.
Right.
There's again, with that rationalization, there's always a rationalization to need more, to want more, to need more technology and more money and more power and more everything, which, a lot of that, I would say there's positive things there, but it's like, if you lose sight of the shore, you don't know where you are anymore. And now you've lost sight of that. You're like, well, this is where we were going, so this is the right way. And we're just on autopilot in this direction. Inevitably that will crash.
It has to.
It kind of has to. So hopefully, it doesn't just destroy who we are in the process, but
Right.
we'll kind of see where that leads to. I would say that that's one of the bigger problems that we face is we got so fixated on progress that we lost sight of who we are at our core, at our essence. It's like there's something very positive about minimalism and just what do you actually need, and then starting from there. It doesn't mean it's bad to have nice things or it's bad to have a roof over your head, but when that becomes your driving force, it's like, do you even want this shit? Like, do you really want all 5 of these cars? Are you sure you do, or you just believe that you do because of what's promoted in this world? And I'm like, all right, well, why is it promoted in this world? There are positive elements there, but as a whole, is the end? Does the end justify the means?
Right. Exactly. Or
Yeah.
are those 5 cars filling some sort of void temporarily that we're feeling within ourselves, right? And that's sort of
It becomes like it's almost like the more that we have as individuals, as a world, the worse it kind of gets in a lot of ways.
absolutely.
We've completely lost our humanity, and we're becoming, inevitably, where this will lead if it doesn't crash is there won't be humans anymore, because there's going to be a reason to start to become robotic and take all the humanity out of everything. I mean, look at all these technological advances, how much humanity has taken out of stuff.
Yeah.
Like how many people can even do things anymore? Very, very few. Very few. And that's not going to get better. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse. And then eventually you've completely lost the ability to self-sustain in a lot of ways. And you've handed over all of your rights and abilities for justifiable reasons in your mind and in all of our minds in a lot of ways. And then it's gone. And then you either conform to the machine or what, what do you do?
It's like here goes the whole tribe all going, they're running off a cliff, right? And it's like, are you just going to join in and conform with them and signal the end of life as we know it in that, I guess, man machine merger? Or are we going to turn around?
That's why I think it's important to kind of pay attention and understand where things inevitably will lead.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think they're going to lead there soon, or even in multiple generations, where will that inevitably go?
Yeah.
And if we don't hold on to what we are at our core, that won't be a very good place.
Yeah.
Or it won't be a human place. That should be obvious right now where that will go. And then obviously the flip side of the argument is, well, if there's no technology, then we don't have this, that, and the other. Yeah, I understand. There's a balance. There's a balance there, but we're so off kilter on that. We're so out of balance. It's not even funny anymore. Like we're so lost in that we're kind of just going with that momentum. We don't even really know why. We're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I need the new update. I need the new phone. I need the new car. I need the new technology. Be like, oh, this can drive for itself. Oh, that's great. Yeah, but what's the flip side of that? What can be done with that? Handing all these abilities over might be very positive, but what does that come with? Everything comes with a cost. Everything positive and everything negative, it comes with a cost. And the biggest problem is when we're not aware of what that cost will be. It's okay if you understand it. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but yeah, you're also going to have to do this. It's like, why it's so easy to view successful people and be like, oh yeah, I want that. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. Because if you did, you get off your ass and go do it. You just want the end result is what you want. You don't want to pay for it. And that's the mentality that's going on, is we all want that end result, and we're all manipulated by that end result because that end result looks good.
Right.
It seems good, and it might be good, but it is going to cost you something. There's nothing free in this world, and the most expensive things are the ones that you think don't have a cost.
Exactly. And, we already kind of have, in a sense now, I would say like a technological bondage with like smartphones, right? With machine progress and sort of this really confined material technological way of looking at the world, looking at ourselves. I mean, even look at health and medicine, right? The body is not one integrated system. It's all very mechanical. You have a doctor for your head, a doctor for your
Yeah.
this, that, right? It's all, there's not that symbiotic flow, right? And I think
Yeah.
we do that with the world at large. We don't ask the questions of, well, how can we use this technology for the betterment of humanity instead
Yeah.
of for the betterment of our profit margins, right? Why is it that in some areas we have crazy technological advances, but then I don't know, we're using the same, with the exception, I suppose, of the self-driving cars now, right? Let's use an automobile, for example. We're using the same technology as it was in the 1950s with slight variations. Why have they not advanced to a more self-sufficient model? I mean, there was the guy who created a car that ran on water. Why did he get killed? I don't know. Very good. That's a very interesting question. Something to explore for all the conspiracy theorists out there, I suppose. But we have very specific technological innovations that seem to be playing to exactly what we've already talked about in terms of how people are conforming. And I think it comes down to the individuals who are working in these areas, like in Silicon Valley or in Apple or wherever it may be, the drivers of this. Like, take a look in the mirror, ask some questions, not just about the technology, but like the self, right? I'm at a point personally where it's very hard for me to take any action that is going to be, that I know long term it's not for the betterment of myself or others, right? I don't order from Amazon anymore. I don't, like, there's a lot of things that are, I guess, are not convenient, but I'm willing to do anyways, right? I don't buy any factory farm meats. Like, it's all local stuff. Same with the vegetables. It's very, I have to be very conscious about the choices I'm making, but it's because I know that it has at least a karmic level an impact, right? So I think there's a lot of self-reflection that needs to happen in that regard. And the people doing these technologies, like if somebody's listening to this and they're an inventor, like, great, what can you invent not for a profit margin, but for the betterment of yourself and others, right? That can serve your community, that can be a gift to mankind, because that's the mindset I think we need to get into, because technology is a good thing. We can sit here and have these conversations, which is beautiful. But I guess somebody pointed out to me, even the word Zoom, it has the first three letters, zoo. We're kind of trapped in a cage a little bit, right? Because it has its limitations if we let it enslave us. So
I think a lot of these things were built out of positivity and the want to progress in those positive ways, but I think they either get hijacked and stolen from other people, or the individual gets caught up in the kind of obsession of more and more. It's kind of, I always use an example of, it's like the band, it's like the local band that you love. Like, they're so great and they're so authentic, and really feel that. But in this, like, I want more people to hear them, of course. And it's like, but the bigger they get, the more they have to conform to be, for the masses. And the bigger things get, the more robotic they get, and the more you lose your way. And that's tricky, and I think that's why it is so important for us to start small and grow from there. It's like, I think at our foundation, I mean, that's what's our governing bodies is what it is supposed to be.
Right.
But we lost that a long time ago, or if it was ever that at all. But it's like, we shouldn't have a government telling us what to do. It's like the people of the community, and then those people hopefully have representatives that speak for them, and then that goes to the next one. But we're living in a top-down society, even though we believe or are led to believe that it's the reverse. But
Right.
I don't know if it's really ever been that.
I tend to believe it hasn't. It's not. I mean, it's at least
Well,
not in
it
our.
definitely is. It definitely isn't anymore.
At least not. Probably not in our lifetimes. I mean, it's
No,
interesting
no.
because I've been even I've been watching a few different like documentaries on like Gaia TV, for example, and they talk about Eisenhower and Kennedy, right? And there is so much that goes on that even somebody like the president doesn't have any control over. That's working
Certainly.
within the shadows, right? So
Yeah.
even in these like things like elections, like I think there's value in voting in your local community based elections for people
Yeah.
who are going to serving directly within your community. Yeah, go
Yeah.
and if somebody wants to be a part of that, run in that. You can make a real difference in that. But you're
Mhm.
right. The further we go up that chain of centralization, the less real say we're going to have it all, right?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. The larger something gets, the more it has to conform in
Yeah.
order to fit people under the umbrella, right? I mean, when you're in just one small community or one city, well, for even that, there's a certain level of uh, individual expression that can be represented within the culture, within the community. Those needs can be honored and met to a certain degree. And especially if because generally communities, they're very, I mean, it's not always the case, especially when we're looking at cities nowadays and sort of how we have such a melting pot of diversity in a place like America, right? It's
Mhm.
not always the same within the local community, the values and the traditions and whatnot, but a lot of places it's still like that, right? And so
Yeah.
you can have that sort of direct representation and meet your ideals and your needs, and that really is how it should be. But we look at all of the facets of our life, like the food system, right? The global food supply chain, like
Mhm.
even local communities for the most part are reliant upon that global system. They're
Yeah.
reliant upon the global political structure. They're reliant upon the global mass media to give them information about
Mhm.
what they should think about within their own communities, right? So it's really desecrating a
Yeah.
lot of uh, that spirit of, I would say, community and coming together. And I think it's up to us to refine that and reintegrate it. But it's tough, especially if you're in an area and not everybody is in alignment with that exact thinking. There isn't, and there, this is sort of a global phenomenon. So there isn't one place we can all just escape to and sort of rebuild our values and structures
Yeah.
in a new way, right? So
Yeah.
I think there needs to be that uh, loss of individual dependency upon those global structures, right? Because there are still
Yeah.
going to be the farmers growing their own food. There are still going to be the
Mhm.
people in the communities who are much more sovereign, right? And they're happy to guide others to that. I've
Yeah.
found in my own experience. So
Oh yeah.
it's that loss of like the dependency is what's keeping us entrapped in this system to begin with. They have us hook, line, and sinker for the most part in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and we just keep feeding into it. It's
Yep.
like, I think that's what makes it tricky too, because it's like, all these, we all say that we don't want this, but we keep all of us buy into it.
Yep.
We keep feeding into it. And, if you're a person at the top of that pyramid, we're like, well, they fucking want this shit, obviously. But then you also got to look at how much of that is ingrained in us in our upbringing, our education systems, and our entertainment. Like, yeah, there's that argument, but there's also that too. Like, how much of this is just because of the way that we're brought up in the system that we're brought up into. Like, you can say everybody wants that, but of course they want that. They're made to want that the day they're born.
Yep.
It's like there's that entire spectrum. Like, it's easy to look at those elites and be like, oh, they're the devil, they're this and that, and yeah, maybe, but there's this whole process in that, and it's all goes back down to the individual and taking responsibility in ourselves, regardless of what's promoted in this world. Like, as if we still have a choice to make. Every day we have a choice to make. what's convenient, what's maybe better and long term, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health. I mean, it's just it's really the same for everything. And I think it's tough because it seems impossible, and maybe it is impossible. Maybe no matter what happens, this is going in that direction regardless. But we all have individual choices. Like, do we want to contribute to this? Do we want to help it? You might not be able to slow it down, but you don't need to speed it up either.
Exactly. And if enough individuals make that choice that they're not going to be a part of it, just in its own nature, it's going to be slowing down, right? And the alternative path begins to be forged just through our own individual decisions. We don't necessarily have a centralized alternative method. This is the path forward, right? But it maybe one will emerge the more we collectively unify around these principles of individual sovereignty. And what's interesting, and one thing that is, I would say, of slight concern when I look at what choices people are going to be making, right? I mean, I'm at the point personally where I don't sit in anxiety about what's going on in the world. Like I kind of said at the very beginning, like I feel good. I'm alive. I feel energetic. Like there's a lot of good to see in the world, and that's what I choose to really embody. And that doesn't mean I ignore the shadows by any means or bypass any of that. But life is good. But at the same time, I see the choice in the future. A lot of the foundations for who we are. We talked about like minimalism and things, right? I feel like a lot of these ideas, when we talk about the Great Reset, and you have you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, they have that half truth of minimalism ingrained within that ideology, right? It's like, you're going to own nothing and you're going to feel great. And there's a part of me that hears that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need anything to feel great. That's true, right? So you can see,
I'm on board with that. Take all my shit.
Right, exactly. Oh, they're right. All of this stuff was weighing me down. So you almost have these half truths that are sold, and that's just one example. I mean, there's a lot of, I think almost all of their agenda. I was on the World Economic Forum's a website, and this is something I think everybody should do. They have mission statements for all of the different areas that they talk about, right? Whether it's the agricultural system, it's cybersecurity, things of all this nature. And they have the mission statement telling you exactly what they envision, right? And these are people who have tremendous amount of influence. I mean, I guess it's up for debate how much power they truly hold. We see the governments around the world seem to be acquiescing to their ideologies. So, I mean, they hold some power, hold some influence, and I can see they put it with the butterflies and rainbows. And it's for example, the environment. Like, it seems pretty obvious to me, we need to stop polluting. We need to stop cutting down trees at the rate that we're doing, right? So it's almost like the rainforest, for example. Like, you don't hear climate activists talking about deforestation. You hear them talking about carbon. Like, so a lot of these, they take a lot of these foundational truths. Like, we know we need to be more in alignment with nature, but let's conform to this centralized ideology about selling you the illusion that you're coming into alignment with nature, right? So that's kind of the problem. It's not like, we need to stop doing this and start doing this. It's only, we need to stop doing this and we're going to stop doing this. All right, but how and what does that actually come with? It's like all this green energy that ain't green at all. It's very easy to sell that because you can see the pollution of oil. You can see the devastation that causes. So you're like, that's bad, but this other thing doesn't have that, so it must be good. While we're like, but the the child labor and the raping of the earth over there for those parts that are so clean, you kind of leave that out, and that again goes with like the assuming that everything you're doing is like you're the savior of the world, but it does come with a cost, and that cost might be way worse than the cost of the other thing. You don't really know, because I would say
politics 101 is lying with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You take elements that are very true, very relatable and understandable, and then you assume that's right. Yeah, that's of course that's right. But you also left off half the conversation.
Yep. And then half the conversation gets censored, and you can't even have that other half of the conversation, because
Right.
when you bring in the totality of the situation and that sort of full spectrum, uh, naturally people start to have a better understanding, right? I think people conform just because they don't know any better, right? That's why it's hard for me to, it's hard for me to get angry at people. I mean, for a long time, this is a small example. A long time I've been wearing a hat that says lions, not sheep, right? Now there's a part of me that feels guilty because I don't want to call people sheep as like a personal degrading, dehumanizing insult, right? Because I'm like, I get it. I understand. Doesn't mean it's right. But am I doing more harm by putting out that you're a sheep energy, right? So it's
because then it becomes, if you're not doing what I'm doing, then that means you're a sheep. Like, that's a little slippery slope that we put ourselves on.
Exactly.
Like I think we should be very cautious about demonizing anything. I mean, I would say there's a very limited group of things that are inherently evil in this world. I would say the bulk of almost everything is a spectrum in itself. And, if you've never been in that situation, if you didn't grow up that way, if you weren't born in that country, whatever the case may be, of course, you're not going to look at things that way. I'm like, what you're doing could be just as evil as what somebody else is doing if they put it in that light. I mean, you just look at a court case. People think, oh, I'm going to go to court and I'm going to sue this person. But like, yeah, but they're also going to talk about your shit too, and they're probably not going to put you in the best light. And some of that might be true, some of it might be not, but it's all in context. What's the context here? And what's the spectrum here? We just feel like, oh, everything I do it's not evil. It's just, it might not be good, but we all rationalize what we do, why we do it. I just got done watching the finale of Ozarks, and I think that show really exemplifies that psychology in humanity. There's always a rationalization for just about everything in the progressive slope we go down to these extremes. Like, now all of a sudden you're murdering people and you're justifying the reasons, and that reason might actually be good, but how did all the shit you did to get here? It's easy to rationalize stuff once you're in that place. And if you're not in that place, if you're on the outside of it, you're going to say that person's evil. And you might be right, but like, we all lose our way, and we tend to lose our way by justifying the reason why. Not because we're just good or bad people, as if that's the only option.
Exactly. And it's interesting because I think we tend to judge ourselves by our intentions, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? That's a good founding to, like, I know what my intentions are, and I'm going to judge myself, hold myself to that standard. But then we judge others by their actions, right? And
100%.
I feel
100%.
in a way, we need to start judging ourselves still with intention, but also recognize the importance of being conscious in our actions, and then look at others and start being more conscious. Yes, hold them accountable to action, certainly, but begin to recognize the intentions behind people's actions and start opening up the door for those conversations, right? I mean, we've become very, I don't know if narcissistic is the exact right word, but it is sort of a narcissistic way of looking at the world when we are looking at ourselves solely with intentions. We are on some holy pedestal over here, and all these other people, they have no intention. Everything they do is nefarious. It's evil, right? It's complete disconnect and separation from really that web that interconnects us all as one mankind, as a species, that interconnects us with the earth, right? Because, I mean, you and I, for example, we have very different backgrounds, very different upbringings. Probably
Mhm.
like the perspectives that we embody are going to be completely different because of that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we're both human beings. We have a lot more in common than than I would say differences. And the same goes
Yeah.
true. It's easy for us to say that because we have I'd say a
Yeah.
similar set of moral ideals that we live by, right? But even
Yeah.
somebody who's on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, if you will, like there's going to be a lot more commonalities than differences, even despite
Certainly.
our vision that we have for the world. So,
Yeah.
and
I would say at its core, we all do things for the exact same reasons. We all justify things for the exact same reasons. Um, the reasons behind what we do and what we believe and what we justify in our ideologies, I would say those are pretty similar across the board on both sides of the spectrum.
yeah,
You know, and again with the Ozarks things, like you show like these are just family people. You know, they're taking care of their kids. They're you know, maybe they got into a Breaking Bad was another great example of that. You know, it's like I'm doing this because I'm going to die and I need to, you know, leave my family as much as I can. And you know, it's like, well, these things are happening anyway, so I'm just going to do it. I'm going to make some money because the government's just going to fuck me and they don't pay teachers jack shit. And
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, yeah,
We find
definitely.
ourselves rooting for him.
But then, you know, when you see that arc where he
Yeah.
goes, you know, particularly like if you watch it all in one whole, you're like, damn, like that was a fucking giant swing. But when you watch like how it happens, you know, it's like they're not necessarily even doing things they want to do. They feel like you feel like you have to and you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get there. You know, it's kind of always that way. We all get there in this path of not progress. I like you regression, but it's, you know, we build or break ourselves down in incremental ways every day. It's very rarely one giant thing. You know, it might be a giant thing that kind of changes our perspective really quick, but it's still every day you're going in one direction or you're going the other. You know, I would say no matter what, we always have a choice. No matter if somebody's got a gun to your head, you always have a choice. It might not be a choice you like, but you do have a choice. We have a choice every day that we get up. We have a choice how we view things. You know, I think we hand over too many of our rights beyond the greater rights. You know, we hand over our individuality as if we don't have a choice. You know, we're victims of circumstance, and understandably so. I mean, we all it's like you might not have a choice on whether you are a victim, but you don't have to hold on to that mentality your whole life. And that was a real big awakening for myself, because again, it's like, yeah, these things, I am a fucking victim of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Of course I feel that way because I am. You are. Everybody is a victim of something, but you still have a choice to make. You still can decide whether you become that or not. You think everyone that happened to is going to be that same way? No, you have a choice to make. We all have a choice to make. Mm-hmm. And the more we can take control of that, the better we'd all be. You know, if we all took control of the things we do have control over.
Exactly. And I love that you brought up victimhood, because that's, you know, I did a podcast yesterday. That's something we talked about, and it's fascinating because it almost seems like the first stage of, I think, becoming conscious in your actions, or becoming really on a conscious awakening path to deeper levels of truth, and going down this path of less identification with a lot of these external things you talked about. I think it's that recognition of victimhood and recognizing how it really attaches to our identity, especially within the structures that we live in, right? Why is it that the media can deceive people so easily because they play on the emotions. They get people into a victim mindset that this world is, the walls are closing in around them, the world is in chaos, this happened, Trump this, all of it, right? And you play that the victim card for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people spend their whole lives unconsciously a victim to life circumstances, and therefore they will go down the paths that we just described, because it's a way to I guess I don't want to say conquer that inner victim mentality, but it's a way to hide and repress it, because you do have to, like you said, you have to acknowledge, yeah, I was victimized by X, Y, and Z, by life circumstances. It happens. It's going to happen continually. But are you going to hold on that and make it the foundation for who you are, and let that unconsciously drive all of your actions as you seek revenge against the world for simply being alive as a victim, right?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people hold a prejudice against life itself because they were victimized, and there is no rational explanation for that victimization, right? So they're just going to take it out on the world. They're going to unconsciously let it drive them. And that's exactly what our systems that are based on emotion play into, right? So we can sort of make that choice to say, all right, I'm not the victim, I am something much deeper than that. And the victimization, maybe it wasn't ideal, but it happened. So therefore, how can I sit with it, find peace with it? And maybe there's a lot of healing work that has to be done. Maybe that healing work is lifelong, right? But how do you move forward? Like, it's all life can't, everything that happens, as terrible as it may be, can be an opportunity to step further into your own empowerment, into your own truth, really. Even if somebody has a gun to your head, and maybe you make a decision where they're going to end up pulling the trigger, but maybe that decision, it leaves you with that last going out with empowerment and truth. That's certainly not ideal, but if that's what your soul's calling to, who's to say it was the wrong choice, right? So
we all have to make those choices and then live with them, because no matter what it is externally, internally, we're the ones that we're left with, regardless of what it looks like, what it feels like, what it seems like. And it's kind of like it's so easy to be distracted by the external, because we're all under this assumption that if I have this, or if I didn't have this, things would be better. If I had more money, if I had less drama, if I had this, I'm like, no matter where you are, you're there. No matter how much or how little you have, you're still you. There might be slight changes and variations on that, but you're still you. You think, like, if that were the case, then everyone that had that would be happy and just full of bliss all the time. Like, human nature doesn't change just because of these elements. Certain things certainly contribute to, things that come with wealth, things that come with poverty, things that come with everything else. But, human beings are human beings, and there will always be something to worry about. There will always be the feeling of not having enough and needing more. No matter how much or how little you have, that will never, ever, ever, ever change. And it's never changed. But we get so distracted by those things because, again, it's easy to, because there are positive. We're like, well, if I had more money, I could pay my bills. Like, yeah, but that more money does come with something else. It's not just I have more money now, I can pay this, because when you get that, more comes with it. Just like when you get rid of stuff, like, you might have less of this, but you're going to have more of something else. And we very rarely view things from that perspective. We assume that if this thing gets taken away, or if I have more of it, then I'll be in this place. Right. And that's not ever been the case for anything.
Ever in all of human history.
Ever. Like, why? Like, we all think we've like something figured out. If I get this, then I'm like, everybody thinks that. Like, why isn't that the case then? Why is that not the case? Do you really believe that if if you get this thing or you didn't have this thing, that would change your perspective. Because if that were true, everyone that did or didn't have that would have that perspective, but they don't. Why don't they? Because you're not viewing the entire context of what that all comes with, what that cost comes with, what that brings out of you, what that brings out of others. You know, a really good thing that exemplifies that is there's a good documentary. I don't know if it's called The Curse of the Lottery, but it's something along those lines. And, you know, it just talks about almost every single person that won the lottery just completely destroyed their lives, their families' lives, very, very quickly. And the only people that didn't happen to were the ones that only took what they needed, really, and really donated everything else, or used it for not themselves, but for others.
Yeah, purpose beyond the individual self.
That I would say should, you know, that at its core, that's what life is and should be. You know,
Exactly.
It's not ourselves. It's this community. And if we started to view things that way, even on a small scale, we could start steering this giant ship in the right direction.
Exactly. And, you know, we could even speak to if, let's say, we woke up tomorrow and the government announced that they're getting rid of all sorts of restrictions. I mean, a lot of COVID restrictions are gone, for example, but let's say they eliminated all restrictions forever. We're going to end the transhumanism agenda, everything that the quote unquote, I guess, freedom movement is working towards, right? It's like, all right, radical freedom across the board. You know, we have that celebration. Yeah, wonderful. All of those things that we just talked about are still going to be there. They're going to manifest in new forms, right? I mean, we're not going to
I give it a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe 5 days. 5 days.
Exactly. It kind of goes to show that you can't create. I think a lot of people are under the idea that you can create a utopia through ideologies. You can create it through legislation. We can all work harmoniously as one and ignore the plights of our suffering, and we can create utopia, right? But any sort of utopia you're going to create is going to be a dystopia because it's in the form of mass conformity. Like, that's all it can be. So regardless of what's going on in the external world, you're going to have, you know, whether you're in a technological enslaved state or you have radical freedom and it's supposed to be kumbaya, right? You're going to have challenges and suffering. I think that's the essence of being a human. That's why we're here. We're here to learn and grow from the challenges. And, you know, what you spoke of is the ability to become fully conscious in awareness with your choices, right? Because if we make a choice and we are empowered in that choice, we're not going to have suffering as a result of that. I mean, we can't control what's happening in the world. Again, we might be victimized in some sense, but you can be empowered in that choice. And ultimately, you can't be a victim of your own choices, right? Like, I mean, you can play the victim, but what good is it going to do? So if you're fully empowered in those choices, you can consciously create the life that you want. It's not a bad thing to have desire necessarily. I think eliminating desire is a concept that seems to go around in spiritual communities. And I understand it. It's that attachment to desire that can fuel our lust for power and greed and material objects. But we can use desire to actually align ourselves with a vision that's good for ourselves, good for humanity, right? I'm sure you desired to step in the ring and fight. Like, if you didn't have that desire, what would what would you have done?
Yeah, I think when it comes to that kind of spiritual side of, you know, desire is like the root of evil. I think it's the assumption that that thing is going to bring fulfillment. That is where desire is a negative. You know, the desire is what drives human beings. Like, you could just be this guy sitting on a rock and be like, I'm completely happy. I don't need to do anything. I don't need air, water. and then like humanity just dies.
Right.
So desire is important, but not being led by that as if, or that external, or that reward, or it's good to be driven by things, but not obsessed by them, because like now you don't desire, now you're just obsessed. Like that's not desire, that's obsession. There's a difference.
Exactly.
And the problem is those differences are so nuanced, they can feel exactly you might think they're exactly the same. And who's to say which one you're on, where are you?
Right.
And that's we need to all be very internally conscious, as well as having externally. That's why it's so important to have that kind of accountability person, whether that's a person, whether that's a system, like systems are whatever, but I think there's an element of that is helpful. You need someone to kind of say, hey, you're doing something fucking stupid. That doesn't mean they're right. But to know that, like, hey, if what I'm doing is viewed in this way, I will need someone to tell me that I can at least defend my position. It's like, I don't think anything should be off limits, because you're either going to convince people that what you're doing is right, or you're going to change your mind. It's like, so I don't think many of us want to view our belief systems under that scrutiny, because we get very defensive. Like, if you really believe what you believe, then you're going to be able to, at the very least, defend yourself and convince someone that what you feel and do is right. And if not, you're going to get a different perspective. Like, that shouldn't that be what we all want, is to have either strengthen our belief systems or change our perspective.
Exactly. No, exactly. And it comes back to that identification with the belief systems, right? If your belief system is being questioned, and the foundation of your identity is that belief system, that means the foundation of your identity is what's being questioned, not just the belief system. So
Right.
It's almost then, if that's who you think you are, naturally that ego is going to come into play and say, no, we can't question this. This is the absolute truth of who I am, right? And I think we really need to, again, that's why it's important to detach ourselves from the need to, I would even say, identify with any one external thing, whether it's an ideology, whether it's a job, really any of it, because all of it is the subject to change. It's always subject to new interpretations, because there are we're getting close to 8 billion people on this earth with their own unique individual perspective, who can look at what I am doing and pick up on something that somebody else couldn't, based on their own background and perspective. I mean, that paves the way for infinite growth and change and malleability. And maybe some of what people are going to say is absolute crap, and that's fine, but it in a way, like you said, it allows you to strengthen that belief system. It allows you to actually come to a deeper understanding, because now you see another polarity, you see another perspective, you see how somebody approaches it from X, Y, or Z, right? And so it's I guess that's the game of infinite growth, and the game of identification with it. It's interesting because it's identification with something far greater than what we even know in the rational mind, and it's with the soul. It's with that greater awareness, that infinite awareness, because this is an infinite process. I mean, at any point, when you start clinging to those beliefs, it's when you stagnate. It's when the chaos really comes knocking, because you kind of set yourself up for it. So,
we're all like, I feel like humanity's under this presumption that there's some kind of objective truth and objective reality.
Yeah.
Why do we think that? I mean, do you really think if we both look at the exact same thing, you think we see and feel and hear and absorb the exact same information, because there's just this static reality happening? Like, you have no fucking idea what anyone else sees, thinks, hears, or feels at all. It's like, it's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it and look into like say the light spectrum, for example, like what we can see what our system can absorb and what's really out there.
Yeah.
And you just, take that into context of everything. And then that's why it becomes so easy to judge other people, because you think they're looking at what you're looking at from the same exact place, and they just came to that conclusion. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
What a fool.
yeah, but you're not standing over there.
Right.
You're not standing. You didn't come up over there. It might look very different to you if you came up over there. And we're just going around telling people, you have to be me. You have to believe what I believe. You have to see what I did. Even if you grew up on the other side of the world, if you don't think the way I think, you're a piece of shit. You deserve to work for me.
I was going to say, the people who are going around saying that are the exact mindsets we don't need. So, I mean, just the need to impose our will upon the other. That's kind of a red flag, that judgment for a different cultural background or a different perspective. It's like that little cartoon where they have the two people standing on one side, it looks like a 6, the other, it looks like a 9, right? Because they're standing on the opposite sides of it. And it's like, no, it's a 6. No, it's a 9. Like they're both right. I mean, we could sit here and
a lot of elements, like we could all be right, because we could all be I use like religion and God as an example. Like we could all be talking about the exact same thing. Like we're arguing about the same thing. Yep. We just have a different perspective of the exact same thing. And this is how I view it and interpret it. And we're starting wars and killing each other. Like we're arguing over the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, it's funny you say that, because this must have been a couple months back. I was in the sauna and somebody came in and we were just talking about religion, spirituality. And he asked me if I knew the Holy Spirit. And I sat for a moment and I thought I knew what he meant. But I said, can you define the Holy Spirit for me and put it in the context of what you actually mean by that? And he explained it. And I was like, okay, I understand the energy, the intention that you're saying with that. Yes, I do. And that's not what I would refer to it as, but it was that, it was what I initially thought he was talking about anyways, right? It's that deeper, I would say great spirit, or, it's, you could say God, whatever works. But
it's like when we hear the word God, everyone is going to align their belief system with that God. Like on the dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." It doesn't say which God or whose God.
Yeah.
You like a lot of people just, I would say more Christians, but I don't know if that goes across the board, but people will insert their belief system on that word.
Yes, exactly.
Which is, kind of funny and ironic and interesting. And like you just assume they're talking about yours, because why?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Did you ask them when they printed that, when they made it, who they were actually talking about?
Exactly. I mean,
no. And you can use that analogy for a lot of things. We give things meaning with our own belief system. Like it's like, if you feel like you're blessed, you're going to take everything under that context. If you feel like you're cursed, you're going to view everything through that lens. It doesn't necessarily change reality. These might just be circumstances, but you take them with that viewpoint and you look at things through that lens. And the more that we understand that, it's like we give things meaning. Ourselves do. Nobody externally gives them meaning.
Right.
I can take the worst thing ever and say, oh, this is a reason I shouldn't do this, or this is going to give me motivation. This is why I should do this. It's like my very first fight, I got fucking just destroyed and annihilated. And everything up to that point, from the day I started, was pointed in the right direction. I was like, oh, I turned my life around, like I'm like killing it. Like every day I'm like making these giant leaps. And everyone thought I'd been doing this for years and years because I naturally took to the art so much. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have this fight. I'm gonna crush this fucking dude. And then I'm like, I'm gonna be on my way. Yep. And it was like, pah, stomped. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm not supposed to do this. I mean, obviously, this is a sign that I shouldn't do this. And like when I sat with it for like a day or two, I'm like, all right, you still have a choice to make here. You can use this as a reason to quit, or you can use this as fuel to go farther. And I was like, are you only going to do this if you can win? No, I love to do this. So what does that external thing have to do with your internal driving force? And as soon as like that kind of, and I'm so grateful I had that day one, as opposed to, years later, like a lot of people did. I had to make that decision, that first fight.
Yeah.
And I would say that's one of the most important things you can ever do, is like you need to know why you're doing this. Because if you're only doing it for those external reasons, and again, they can be very positive driving factors, but eventually those things might be taken away. And if you're not doing that for that reason, why are you doing it at all?
Exactly. Because the true fruits of abundance and the true fruits of fulfillment are going to come from within. It is for that internal meaning, like you said, right? It's interesting because I actually understand the nihilist perspective of, oh, life has no meaning. I get it. Like, I understand where they're coming from, because you can look at the external world, and if you're placing all your eggs in that basket and you see the chaos and you see the flames and the corruption and this and that, I get why somebody would be despondent or play the victim of, wow, I can't believe this is what's happening in the external world. There's no, there can't be any meaning to this. This is just a disaster. Let me crawl into my little shell, right? I get it. I understand, but it's like, can we see the deeper meaning here? Like, we're here. Okay. I have these internal emotions. I have this internal drive. I have these ideas. That in itself must be meaningful, right? Otherwise, why would I have these things? Let me start exploring that question. Why do I have these ideas? Let me start exploring those ideas. And you don't get attached to the specific outcome of, maybe like if I had the idea to start a podcast, originally my goal was to get 20 episodes, right? I was like, I want to get 20 episodes, because I remembered reading how when 90% of people start a podcast, I don't reach episode 20. So that was like my initial like driving factor. It's like, all right, I want to start it. I'm going to get to episode 20. And I did that. And it was like, okay, now what? What do I do? I'm at 20. But it was like, but I recognized there was that internal fulfillment that came from doing a podcast, right? Small example. I'm like, all right, so because of that alone, and because I'm enjoying and getting something from this, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not going to have an attachment or an expectation, except to just go with the flow, right? Find that rhythm of life that really, I guess, kind of a dance of life in a lot of ways. And just allow that to guide you, because there is a flow that we can tap into that's internally generated. It's internally found. And I think it is that connection to life itself, to the world, to others. And, we're not going to find it when we're searching for it out there in the external world. We're only going to find it inward. And that in itself is what gives meaning, even if that meaning isn't in a rationalized context, right? We can't put it in logical terms all of the time.
Yeah, I would say at the very least, like, we should always start there.
Yeah.
Start internally. It's kind of like with I use like weight loss and surgeries and all these other things as an example. It's easy to go to that quick fix. Yeah. Right. But if you're not taking into account what you could be doing first and foremost, you're just putting a Band-Aid on a fucking gushing wound. It's going to more than likely, more times than not, it's going to create more negativity than prior to it. You're not changing anything. You're changing something external, hopefully that changes the way you view things and the way you look at things. But then more often than not, it becomes this obsession with, I just need to fix a little bit more external. But if we start at what we can be doing internally, again, like surgery, for an example, of course, like doctors, they're always going to recommend the quick fix and the thing that helps their dollar. And it doesn't mean they're lying to you.
Yeah.
They're just not giving you the full information there. And how many of those things could you change and fix just by some changes in your lifestyle?
Yep.
But that's not something that's encouraged, because that doesn't help people make money.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I think we should use all these systems as they're helpful. It's like supplements, for an example. Like supplements are supposed to be there to supplement what you're already doing, not to
Mm-hmm.
fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing what you need to do at its core, you're just throwing money away. Like you can do all the steroids you want, but if you're not working out and lifting weights, and you're not necessarily gonna get that much stronger, then you're probably gonna be causing a lot of fucking problems, man.
Exactly.
But we're so, it's like we're always looking in the wrong direction, and the immediate fix, the things that are visual, obvious, it's like we connect with that because we can see it right away. Like, I did this and that happened. Oh yeah, I need to do it again because I need to fix that. It's the long, slow process. Like we don't want to do that. It's like anything you want to do right is going to be slow, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be painful.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is. If it's easy, you should be very cautious, very aware. If it doesn't cost you anything, be very, very, very
It's
cautious.
costing you something,
Costing,
whether
costing you something. It's probably costing you a lot, and something you might not want to actually pay.
Exactly. Well, and that goes back into the idea of empowered in our choices. Like that, if we're making that instant quick fix, like can we, when the time comes, when that comes back and bites us, are we going to play the victim, or are we going to own up and take responsibility? I mean, I look at the world around us right now, and I mean, to use the example of the jibby jab. I mean, I don't sit here judging people who went and took it, or for whatever reason, whether it was fear or whether they thought it was, that they're helping their community, whatever. People made that decision. And unfortunately, I think for a lot of people, though we were wondering, how are we going to wake people up, right? A lot of times waking up to deeper levels of empowerment or deeper levels of conscious choice, it comes from our own mistakes. It comes from something that happened where, I mean, we see all the time now people getting injured from the shot, right? They're now aware of what's going on, but they had to have that pain in order to wake up, right? So I think there's going to be, unfortunately, I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot of collective hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma that's continuing to be generated based on what you just described, this externalization of our choices and this quick fix mentality. And I'm hoping it doesn't come in like a freight train and just hit everybody at once. I mean, it's quite possible, but at the same time, if it does, can we stand empowered, recognizing that was our own acquiescence, that was our own decision, even if we were sold a lie from the foundation, because we naively went along, just went along with it. We didn't necessarily have that deeper level of questioning. So
it's like it can be easy to demonize people that just go along with stuff, but if you didn't grow up a certain way or never had a reason to question things, why would you?
Exactly.
Like, why would you question the government? Why would you question your parents? Why would you question people that presumably want what's best for you and might even show you that they want what's best for you? It doesn't mean you need to, like, anytime anyone says anything, you're like, yeah, well, I need to look into it and like see who you are and what you do. Like, but you got to understand all these things are coming from human beings, and human beings are flawed, and whether they're intentionally doing something wrong or evil or anything else, or just going along with it, I think it's important to always view things in that lens. It doesn't mean you need to be like everyone's the devil and everything's bad, and like, I don't view things that way. I don't think that way, but I think I try to view things in the spectrum of reality, and in the context of history and just human nature, and then go from there. It's like, I'm not going to assume you're an asshole, but I'm also not going to assume you're an angel either. I'm going to let you show me who you are. I'm going to give you respect and treat you like a human being. And, I'm going to go with who you are and what you show me, not what I presume on either side of the spectrum. It's like those presumptions is what gets us all into trouble. It's like I hope for the best, but I also prepare for the worst.
Exactly.
I don't want to be on either side of positivity or negativity.
I agree with that completely. You have to have that fine balance of using your discernment, of that questioning everything mentality, and then also trust, right? I think a lot of people who just go along with things, it's because they're generally trustworthy people. Actually, they, like you said, they don't have a reason to question things. I mean, they look at the world at large, they see what they see, they trust that's what the reality is. And that's not necessarily a bad quality, because if we're not trustworthy with one another, then we're not going to have a harmonious society, right? There needs to be
it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad.
There needs to be that certain level of trust. But then at the same time, you have to have that, like you just so described perfectly, like let people show you who they are, right? And it's interesting because I hear a lot of times about in the freedom movement, it's like this person's controlled opposition or this and that and this. And like, even like, I think sometimes things that are victories are taken off and said, oh, but it's going to lead to this deeper reality and this and that. And I'm like, maybe, but at the same time, sometimes I think it's easy to get lost in the and I understand where the question everything comes from. I think we do need to question everything, but also not getting not isolating ourselves in letting us never trust what another person does, right? Maybe there's a bigger name that comes out and does something that is in alignment with our values. Does that mean that that person is automatically a controlled opposition, or like they are doing it with nefarious intentions? Not necessarily.
Well, we've kind of it's like we've almost demonized asking questions. Like, just because I'm asking you a question doesn't mean I think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I just want more information. Maybe I like what you said and I want more information. Maybe I don't understand what you said and I need more information, more context. We're not encouraged usually to question things, especially if someone with authority says it. And there's a reason for that. It's just easier. It's like a parent. It's like, just do what the fuck I said. Like, I don't need to tell you why, just do it. Because you get sick of the same thing over and over again. And that psychology goes throughout everything. That's, that goes into government. You're governing all these people are like, well, just do what the fuck I said.
Yep.
But eventually it becomes everything I say is right. And like, you're not allowed to question me. And I'm this authority figure and I have all the answers. And that's where things do become dangerous. So we should definitely encourage one another to ask questions and to view, understand that everything is a perspective. All reality is someone's perspective. Science is a perspective. There are no facts. There are realities that haven't been proven otherwise, or haven't been proven otherwise by a large enough group of people. But there's nothing that's 100% across the board. This is the way that it is.
Right.
I'm like, we could all be asleep right now. Like, no, you can't prove that we're not. We could all be, we could all be like these brains inside of a floating jar hooked up to electrodes. And this is our projected reality. And you can't prove that's not the case. Because everything you prove is within the context of this reality. And we might not be in this reality. And you don't know that, and I don't know that, and we can only go with what we think.
Well, that's what a fun way. That's a fun rabbit hole in itself, right? Because wow, I don't even know how to respond to that. Because you're right. You're exactly right. I mean, there's so much that I guess is unseen, and we need to have that discernment between trust and then just question, right? Be willing to accept the fact maybe our brains are in some little jar and we're in some matrix pod simulated reality, but all right, if that's the case, does that change my deeper meaning or purpose or what I would like to see in this matrix simulated reality?
If like anything, we're here, you're here, so what are you going to do about it?
Right.
That might be the actual reality, but you're still here right now, and you still have a decision to make. What do you want to do with that information? Be like, oh, nothing matters. Fuck it all. I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. Maybe that's what you want to do. And
Right.
that's why we should be very cautious about telling people what they should and shouldn't do, particularly if it's not affecting anyone else other than the individual.
Exactly.
But then, there's always that external of trying to help people. Sometimes people are lost. Sometimes people have, addictions and things like that they think that they want, but they don't actually want. And where do you draw that line between letting people live their own lives and controlling them or helping them? There's a spectrum in that whole thing, and who gets to say where that line is, and when it's justifiable, when it's not. I don't know. That's a philosophical debate.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I think it's an important one though too, because you have to think about, we live in like a democratic society, for example. Well, ideally, we live in a democratic society. I don't know if that's the case now, but if the people unanimously vote for enslavement, like to enslave me, like, do I not have a say in that? Like, here they all come knocking on my door with the pitchforks and torches, and I'm in some trouble here. Like, that's so, there's a fine line. There's a fine line. And I think we just have to respect the free will of the individual ultimately, whatever that looks like, as long as people are living not in a way that, it's not doing harm to others. They're doing their best. We have to let them be with ultimately the fruits of their decisions, the fruits of whatever they've been doing. And, they can choose to learn from it, or they cannot. I mean, ultimately, even if we are going to try and support somebody, it's still the individual's decision on if they are going to be open enough to just explore what you're saying, right? You don't have to come in being, I'm the wise man, the holy, like, I know the truth, follow me. Like, you're not the Messiah, but it's like, hey, I'm a human being. I'm opening up my heart to this conversation. Let's explore this with one another. Maybe we can help teach, right? Because even somebody who I want to help, I'm sure I could even learn from them while I'm helping them, right? It's a game you play in that sort of relationship, that development when you're going in, looking to assist people. The student and the teacher, it's a synonymous, like it's almost the same. Like, you have the polarities of it, right? But I always view polarities, I don't view them linearly. They're very like almost kind of like a circle, right? You go far enough in one polarity, you end up at the same spot. And I think, student teacher analogy is the same type of thing. You're always the student. Because you're always the student, you can always be the teacher. So, I think we just need to open ourselves up to that type of dialogue, that type of communication.
Yeah, it's far too easy to fall into that savior complex of humanity, of nations and governments, and our way is the right way, and everyone needs to bow down to our belief systems. And if there isn't that dialogue and that conversation, and understanding that something that's good for one person isn't good for somebody else. Somebody's freedom doesn't mean it's free for everybody, and that freedom might enslave somebody else. And to understand that, at the very least, I think we can move forward in a more of a balanced way, because I always use the example of balance. There's no such thing as balance, static balance. Balance is a fluid motion. You're always in motion to stay balanced. You're always jumping over that line of left and the right, constantly adjusting.
Yeah.
Like that. That's what balance means. You're in movement. There's motion in balance. Balance isn't static. And if we applied that to other aspects of life, I think we'd all be better off. There needs to be conversations. There needs to be the ability to be wrong, and to be okay with being wrong, and to be okay with thinking something and changing your mind, and growing, and forgiving each other for our past beliefs and mistakes and actions. know, as if we don't do the same shit, just in a different context, you know, or the same context, just the mirror image of it.
Exactly. Well, and what we see in others is always just a mirror reflection of what's living within ourselves, right? So if we're going around judging or having that sort of, but I guess a egotistical mindset, and we are putting ourselves on a pedestal, well, there's probably some inner judgment that's really going on that we're not acknowledging, right? The shadows are roaring.
It's so much easier to demonize someone else, you know, so you can ignore, because yours might be a smaller percentage there, but it's there, and it's there at some level. And I think that's where that anger comes from. You know, it's you're almost trying to fight yourself and fight that thing in you. And if you can point to somebody else's, that external thing, you don't have to look internal anymore.
Exactly. Well, that's the old saying, there is no enemy outside of ourselves. It's only within, right? There is never, certainly there are external circumstances where people manifest themselves, in the cases of like the Nazis, where if they were coming and taking me to a camp, that's pretty evil. They're doing some like that but are they my enemy in that case, or are they just people conditioned to do what they're meant to do, right? The greatest enemy is the one that lives within, and it's, you know, we have to conquer that. And I don't even necessarily think conquer is the right word, because then we're implying we're imperializing our own soul, and that's a whole other level of domination. I guess it's the dominator mindset that we live in culture, and even just the language we use, right? It's sort of all encompassing, that dominating imperialistic way. And as I think I remember hearing recently, like in the last 200 years, we've lost like 70 to 80% of the English language, right? And as we narrow down sort of our words, we narrow down our creativity, we narrow down our mindsets, our dialogues, all of these different factors, we're really left with this one sort of conforming, conditioned reality. And it's all we can know in a lot of cases, right? Like we've talked about, it's all we're exposed to. So we can never place the blame externally on other people, because most likely it's all they've been conditioned to be in, or it's what their circumstances have led them to that point, right? So
it's their reality.
Exactly.
And you'd probably be doing the exact same thing if you grew up the way they grew up, if you experienced things they experienced, if you had the chemical makeup that they had, the emotional makeup. You think you'd be different, but you probably wouldn't. More than likely you wouldn't be.
Yep.
But we're under this like assumption that it's this static reality, you know, it's this objective reality. And if I was there, I would have done something different. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you wouldn't. So we're always projecting that. Like, oh yeah, if I was in this situation, this is what I would do. You think that?
Well,
you think that because you're sitting right here in your comfortable house.
Exactly.
Well,
it goes into the question of, you know, it's easy to feel good and think we are these like very virtuous people when times are easy, when times are going well. But when things start hitting the fan, or these, like we were talking about earlier, ideologies are really manifesting to a certain point where your direct actions in it would be acts of evil, I guess you could say. How are you going to respond then, right? And I think if we're led down the tiptoe without the conscious awareness, well, look where we end up. It was exactly what we talked about. There's a good book, I don't know if you've read it, Ordinary Men, that talks about it's ordinary men. List, though. Ordinary Men. I think Christopher Browning is the author. I may have that slightly off, but it demonstrates the lives of these ordinary German citizens who found that, you know, they were fathers, they were
actually did they make a documentary about that, or a movie?
They may have. I believe it was a book first, but they may have made it. They probably did. I mean, it was a very popular book.
So I know I've at least heard of the book. And, because I remember that kind of conversation and that explanation of that. Yeah, these are just people,
Yeah.
like, just like you.
Yeah.
When these circumstances happened, they had to make a decision, and they did.
Yeah.
It's not like you're presented with the end of where this decision goes at the decision point.
Exactly.
So but we view things under that lens, as if like this person knew where this was going. They knew they were going to do this. They made that decision. They're a piece of shit.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of times, and I'm sure this is the case even in like Nazi Germany, right? A lot of people, they live in survival mode, right?
Yeah.
That's the essence of our system. So it's like, well, I can join the Nazi party and I can feed my family and I can, we'll get by. And, there's certain parts of this ideology that I don't like. And, you rationalize it like we were talking about earlier. But as opposed to, if I don't join, then it's going to make life difficult, not just for me, but my family as well. We could be in danger, this and that. So you make all those rationalizing choices, and it's not done out of evil, but it's done out of security. It's done out of not security just for the self, like it's for kids, right? A lot of people.
It could be done for very positive reasons, and it's like we either rationalize why we do things, ignore why we do things, or we don't even necessarily know what that thing is. Like you said, like these people might not have known where this is going to lead to. Yeah. They can only react to the information that they're presented with, and you don't know how much of that information they have or understand or any of that,
right?
But sitting on the outside, you say, oh, they knew all this, they're a bad person. Like you said earlier about the government, as if the government's just this like one thing.
Right. It was one blob of evil.
That doesn't have like thousands or millions of people that work in it and that have no concept of any of the information, and how many people are privy to all of the information available to them. And like everybody knows exactly what's going on, what this action will do, and why they're promoting this and why they're not doing this. They all know. They knew what they were doing.
Right. Exactly. Well, what's funny is my dad used to work for the State Department, and he used to say, big government is good government, but it's because the government employed him. So I'm like, all right, he wasn't.
We need more. We need more of it. We need a lot more. I should get a raise, actually.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, well, I understand that that's not nefarious in your intentions. Like, so the political ideology was formulated off of that mindset. I'm like, I understand it. Doesn't mean he's with the Clintons or the Rothschilds or whoever it may be at the top of the pyramid. He was just one worker in the cog of this machine, if you will. Right. So, it's easy to dehumanize a lot of the people or subjects or whatever it may be, just because it happens on both sides. I'm sure somebody could be listening to this who's triple jab, double mask, whatever. They probably wouldn't have gotten to this point of the conversation, so they're not going to hear me say this at this point. But they could look at us and they could say, "Oh, those wicked anti-vaxxers, they're horrible people," whatever, right? That exists, as well as the us. We could start saying, "Oh, the person watching that, they're a sheep, they're this, that," like we were already saying, right? It exists on both ends of the spectrum. It's like, so we got to come to that balance, because I think you said at the very beginning, most people, they aren't living in the extremes. Like I'm in South Dakota. It's kind of life is normal. It's kind of life is normal for the most part. But if somebody wears a mask, I don't sit here judging them or whatnot.
You're a piece of shit.
Right.
You did this. You did this. It's your fault.
But in a way, when you have, whether it's somebody wearing a mask in an area that's where nobody else does, or if somebody's not wearing one, and this is just one example, somebody's not wearing one in an area where everybody's wearing them, it's easy to have that solo target of, look at them, they're not conforming to my standard, to our standard of normal. How dare they? Right. So, it's interesting, because I think the majority of people don't actually, maybe some people do it, and I think we all do it on a subconscious level at times, but it points back to our our own internal biases or things that we need to look at for ourselves, right? But I don't think most people go around looking to be nefarious or looking to divide or looking to um, cause mischief, or they just want to survive. They want to do what's best for themselves, their families, and their communities. And just based on where they are in their conditioning, that's what's going to drive their daily actions, right? It's not even so. It's not always nefarious. Even the people who say, "Oh, we need mandated jabs for everybody," a lot of people don't say that with the intent of, I want to hold these people down and strip them of their free will. They're doing it because they want that added level of security. So,
Right. Yeah.
Doesn't make it right, but I don't know.
Certainly.
Awesome, man. Well, we're at about 2 hours. This really flowed. So I don't know. I'll let you head on out of here. What do you got going on? You got anything you want like the listeners to know about? I saw you had a wanted to ask about this. There was like a I don't know, like a training, like a Muay Thai training or something online. I don't know what that was. There's like an academy class that you're doing or had.
I did a little segment with the Warrior Collective. First they did a book that has all these coaches and fighters from all over the world, different martial artists and stuff. I did a bit for them, and then they came out, I think it was last year or the year before, and we filmed like a whole it was a couple hours actually, tutorial thing. And they have I don't know if it's an app or a series you buy, but yeah, I did that with them, which was pretty cool to do. So I got that. If you go check out the Warrior Collective. But yeah, other than that, I've just been fucking everywhere. We're never in one place for more than 2 weeks, and then we're somewhere, like with everything that Gina's doing and all my teaching and seminars and stuff. Like, we're all over the place. Her movie's coming out next. They're doing the premiere next month in Nashville, June. I want to say it's the 28th, and the next month they're going to premiere that in Nashville, and then I think from there it'll be on the Daily Wire. And you can stream it through them. So that's going on. She's got other projects coming up and stuff. So yeah, I would say doing more now than when I was fighting. It's like same kind of, it's just different, different chaos, different everything. But I'm definitely not bored. There's always something to be done. Working on a book. She's actually writing a book, and I'm doing a bunch of the artwork for it right now. So
sweet.
Trying to get all those done. Yeah, so that's been fun to do, and I think it's going to be cool. And it's great when we can actually collaborate together, as opposed to living two separate lives almost, and then it's like we come together for that. But being able to work on the same things has been nice.
Yeah, coming for that co-creation, right? That's what you gotta love. That's gotta love. Oh, that's awesome, dude. I'm excited to see the fruits of labor when they are when they're ready, right? All that stuff kind of happens behind the scenes. People don't always see the hard work. They only see the results, right? I mean, it's the same thing when you were fighting. They only see you step into the ring. They don't see the training camp up before it. So
you see 0.1% of the total.
Right, exactly. And that's what people get attached to, I suppose. But no, man, that's awesome. I'm excited to see the fruits of it, and it's fascinating because I feel like I got a lot of creative things that I'm doing right now, and it's interesting to have such our own creative interpersonal journeys going on while all this stuff is happening at the collective level. It's like, hey, we got to just keep doing what we got to do. We got to keep creating. We got to keep flowing, right? So
certainly, yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, dude. I'll have this out in probably the next week or two. I don't really know. I've done like 6 podcasts in the past week, and it's like I don't even know when I'm releasing each one. I'm just kind of doing I want to put this one out today. I'm gonna put this one out today. So I'll just let you know when it's up. It'll be relatively soon, but
sounds good, man.
Cool, dude. All right.
Good to talk to you, brother.
All right, you too, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, later.
See ya.